But when you're thinking about where to start, how to choose a city, let me bust a bubble here for a minute. The top 10s may not really be that important. I'll tell you why. Because the team on the ground is what will define my success, especially as an out-of-state investor. I invest here in Los Angeles, and the team on the ground that is supporting my investment here in Los Angeles will define my success in Los Angeles, because I'm not really the one who wants to be writing the project. I don't want to be the one that's on site every day. That isn't my gig. So I always like to know somebody on the ground, especially out of state. I need to be able to cultivate my team. I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I want to talk about online applications that are useful to you as a real estate investor, whether you're an investor who's actually looking to purchase for your own portfolio, or you're an investor who's a professional in the field that wants to be able to find real estate for other individuals. These are some basic websites that I use over and over and over for being able to find useful information for me as a real estate investor. Let me show you. So as you can see, if you're looking at this on Amazon, Roku TV or on YouTube, you can see the list here I have of the sites that I use for how I would start choosing a city and being able to find out some of the information I need. So first and foremost, people often ask me, well, where should I invest in real estate? Across the whole of the United States, what city should I invest in, Christina? Honestly, that's a really big question. And there are people who will give you their top 5 favorite cities, or they'll give you their top 10 favorite cities. I'm investing in Indianapolis. Recently, I've heard people say that they love Phoenix, Arizona. There's also Atlanta, Georgia. People are loving Atlanta right now. Boise, Idaho. So those are top cities that people are investing in right now. But what if you are looking to be able to find a city that maybe isn't this year or this month's particular trend? Why don't we start with where I actually get some of my information from? Marcus and Millichap. Marcus and Millichap, not Champ, Chap. Marcus and Millichap. They are a very large commercial real estate agency that has some very nice research. Now, all you need to do is find a Marcus and Millichap agent, ask them if you can become part of their email list, and that anytime there is a seminar or an economic update, would they be able to get emails being able to register for it? Not very complicated. Register for an economic update. They do it in commercial, industrial, and multi-unit or residential. So you can get a sense for your particular field and what their data says. They have very good data. My one warning about Marcus and Millichap is they are biased because they are real estate agents. Marcus and Millichap is a real estate agent. They want you to purchase real estate or purchase an industrial property. And so therefore, they will have some bias as to what is going on. But that being said, they will have top 10 cities that are doing blank, top 10 cities that have the highest population growth, top 10 cities or top 20 cities that are showing the most increase in rents. They will have charts with information that as far as I can tell, doesn't seem like they're biasing the charts. They're simply giving you the data that they have found. Marcus and Millichap, Millichap. Now, you can also go on Google. Google's always one of my favorites. And you can do the top 10 cities that are blank. Top 10 cities that are having the highest growth, top 10 cities that have the highest employment, top 10 cities for the best lifestyle, top 10 cities for skiing, top 10 cities for vacationing, whatever it is that you feel like would be the city that you would be interested in investing in based upon the asset class that you want to be involved in. Now, some of the other people that I use in just being able to get a sense for economic data, but also potentially city growth or city information is the Norris Group. The Norris Group, Norris, the Norris Group, which is run by Bruce Norris, his son Aaron Norris, and I believe his other son that works there as well. They have flipped over 2,000 homes, been involved in over 2,000 flips in the Southern California area. They are now in Florida, and they are doing work in Florida as well. I trust the Norris Group and their economic updates implicitly. Bruce Norris does his research distinctly and very deeply. He's a very detail-oriented gentleman. And although I believe he did not graduate college, he's incredibly intelligent, but also humble. And to me, that helps me a lot because he's very interested in telling you the data as best as he understands it and not just his conclusions. He's not saying, this is my conclusion, therefore do this. He's saying, look, this is the data that I looked at all the way along the way, and here's how I got to my conclusion. You can make your own conclusions based upon the pure quality of the data that he is representing to you. Now, there's another gentleman named Robert Campbell. He is also here in California. Robert Campbell is somebody who I would have to say he's a naysayer. I'm sorry. I love Robert. I love having him in my club. I love being able to hear his predictions and projections and his data, right? So Robert Campbell, I love his data, but he's a little bit of a naysayer. Bruce is a little more neutral, slightly bullish. Robert Campbell is my naysayer. I like to have both in my repertoire of people I am listening to, because then it gives me a better understanding of challenging my own ideas, not drinking my own bathwater. I then also am signed up for UCLA's economic updates. They do have quarterly updates, sometimes once every 6 months. They will do they will also give you data as to what you're seeing in the economics of, in general, in growth, but also they will sometimes have specific city data or the top 10 cities that are doing blank. So this is where I start. This is how I keep myself educated, and where I start in thinking about having a completely random city to invest in is I go to the experts. There's also Ted McAvoy. He's a new one to me, but I find him to be incredibly knowledgeable. I think it's MCVOY, Ted McAvoy, but I could be wrong. But you can type it in and then type in real estate afterwards, and you'll see he has a YouTube channel that he updates with videos, I think, if not weekly, at least once every 2 weeks. And again, he is deep in his research and deep in his thought, and he's somebody who I appreciate how he relates to the data and brings information forward. And so therefore, these are the people I listen to personally, and I encourage you to also to listen to. But when you're thinking about where to start, how to choose a city, let me bust a bubble here for a minute. The top 10s may not really be that important. I'll tell you why. Because the team on the ground is what will define my success, especially as an out-of-state investor. I invest here in Los Angeles, and the team on the ground that is supporting my investment here in Los Angeles will define my success in Los Angeles, because I'm not really the one who wants to be writing the project. I don't want to be the one that's on site every day. That isn't my gig. So I always like to know somebody on the ground, especially out of state. I need to be able to cultivate my team. So if I know somebody on the ground already, then that actually is a really great place to start. Now, why can I be so generic about it? I can be so generic about it because if I'm looking for a rental property that has a positive price to rent ratio, there are probably 250 different suburbs outside of most primary cities that has some version of a suburb that has a private price to rent ratio. Maybe not immediately around Los Angeles, but you go out to Palmdale, Lancaster, you go up to Bakersfield here in Southern California. They're pretty far outside of LA, but they do have a positive price to rent ratio. So if you go around almost any major city inside the US or any secondary city, you will probably find some version of a suburb that will work as a rental. You'll probably find some version of a suburb or a part of the city that works for flipping. Those are pretty straightforward. You'll probably find some version of somewhere where you can find A-rated triple net commercial properties. Is it the best? As in, is it the most, the best, the highest return given the nation as a whole? Well, then you go back to your Marcus and Millichap, who specializes in commercial property, and you find out. So, but the person on the ground is absolutely irreplaceable. My team is what defines my success. Probably 50%, maybe even 55% of my success is based on my team. So given that I can be relatively agnostic about city, because what I'm looking for is a particular style of investing that will be available in multiple cities, right? Then it is my team that will define the success of which one I choose. So knowing a person on the ground, or going back to the city you lived in as a child, or going back to where your husband grew up, or a city you visit every year, and being able to start there is actually incredibly helpful. So that's the segment that's all about where to start looking to find a city and what I use as far as websites and access that give me that information. Now, let me get deeper into websites, just in general, right? If I've now decided on a city, but already decided on 5 cities, how do I get more information using the web? City-data.com is my favorite is city-data.com. This is, I love it because it's not very complicated. City-data.com is census data. Is the population going up? Is the population going down? Is the unemployment going up? Is unemployment going down? Is crime going up? Is crime going down? What is the crime index for that city? City-data.com has all of that information. If you're looking to do due diligence, a first sweep or first brush of due diligence on that city versus another city, City-data is all the information you need to start with. As a matter of fact, most of my students find it actually kind of overwhelming. So be willing to dig into city-data.com. Maybe I'll do an educational show on what are the primary data points I look at when I do city-data.com. That's how much I love city-data.com. It will answer for you some basic core questions about the demographics of any city that you choose. Google Maps. Why Google Maps? Because I want to virtually walk the city. When I've chosen my city and I've gone to city-data.com and I've narrowed down my neighborhood, whatever it is, Google Maps, the little yellow guy in the corner of Google Maps, type in the city, focus down to where you get to where you can truly see the streets. Then you grab your little yellow guy and you drop him on the street that you're considering, and you walk up and down the street. You walk around the corner, you walk down the alley. The little yellow guy walks the streets for you. I love that because I don't have to fly out there to get a sense for the city. It's not that hard. It's actually really common sense. Is there grass growing? Is there a lot of graffiti? Is there abandoned furniture? Are there abandoned cars, right? Or are all the cars Mercedes and Corvettes, and the houses are huge and all the yards are gated and you can't really see the house? Those are very common sense indicators for what kind of neighborhood you're looking at. And you can get a sense for just using the little yellow guy on the street for what neighborhood this would be useful for. So Google Maps, I spent a lot of time there. It just makes it so much easier. This is again, this conversation is how do I figure out where I want to go? I always go and visit before I purchase, just so you know. I never just purchase off of the internet using my tools. I always go and purchase and look at multiple potential investments before I actually lay any money down. And I drive the streets myself, or I have my real estate agent or my wholesaler drive the streets with me. So, but this is a place to be able to choose. All right, bestplaces.net has a section on it called cost of living. That's bestplaces.net under cost of living. What does that do? It allows you to compare. I live in LA, so I have a particular price point for LA and I have a particular mindset for LA. But when you move outside of LA and you move into other cities, Knoxville, Tennessee, Memphis, Atlanta, Boise, Idaho, the cost of living will give you a sense for what's the differential. Oh my God, the houses are so cheap in Dallas, Texas. Yeah, they might be cheap in Dallas, Texas in comparison to LA, but do the fundamentals of those investments still work? Is it still a positive price to rent ratio? Is it still a house that you can buy low enough that once you're finished with construction, you can sell it high enough that you will get your construction, your holding and closing costs, and your profit out of it? Basic formulas, basic numbers still apply, whether it's 100,000, 10,000, or $1 million. The basic percentages of how things work still apply. So bestplaces.net /cost of living will give you a sense for how you need to adjust your thinking for the numbers of what's appropriate in the city you're thinking about going to. All right, when it comes to researching homes, when I finally have narrowed down my general city, I've narrowed down my neighborhood, I've looked at city-data, I've looked at Google Maps, I've walked it, I've gotten a sense of resetting my mindset so that I know that this city operates differently than it does in LA. I do use Zillow. I admit it, I am a Zillow user. For those of you who hate Zillow, I don't hate Zillow. I love Zillow. I love Zillow because it gives me a lot of the data I need. 1, what's being sold. 2, it's on a map. 3, what do they think they take a guess as to what they think the rents are going to be. 4, they take a guess as to what they think the mortgage is going to be. Although honestly, I do all of that myself. I don't rely on Zillow's numbers. I simply use Zillow's numbers as a potential guideline. I also do use realtor.com, and I do use solds. That is the data I am looking for, is solds. Now, if you're looking for being able to do multifamily, there is LoopNet, which is harder to use now these days. And there was something that was called Listing Book, which is now called, I believe, Elevation. So you can just type in Listing Book, new name, and it'll give you the correct name for Listing Book because they changed it. That's what I would use for multifamily. Rents. My favorite places to find rent is Rent-O-Meter. Rent-O-Meter.com is my favorite place to get rents. Now, I do use other places as well. JungleRents.com, I have used them. Craigslist, we all know Craigslist. And if you're an LA lover, West Side Rentals. West Side Rentals. That's where I confirm my rents. So it's very important to me that if I'm thinking about being able to rent a house, price at a price to rent ratio, right? I need to know what the rents are going to be. If I want to be able to buy a house and I want to be able to make sure I know what the differential is in the neighborhood, that's when I use Zillow, because it'll show me the lowest price per square foot of solds, and I can work out the highest price per square foot of solds just by pulling 12 comps. And I can find my lowest and highest price per square numbers, what my range is, and my flip has to perform according to that range. So really, there's a huge amount of input available on being able to get what you're looking for on real estate. There was one more website I was going to tell you about that I can't remember now what it is. Oh, well, these should give you a place to start. Oh, yes. Always go to your Chamber of Commerce. Always look at travel websites. And always look at your Chamber of Commerce, travel websites, and the local newspaper. Those are things that you can also find online. What is going on in that city? What does the Chamber of Commerce say is going on? Are they redoing a downtown? Are they being able to continue to solve a railway problem? Are they pouring money into the city somewhere? Are they redoing their public schools? Chamber of Commerce will often highlight these stories. What is the city known for? I owned a house up in Hood River, Oregon. Hood River was known for being the windsurfing capital of the United States. Who knew that Hood River was the windsurfing capital of the United States? I didn't know before I invested there. I discovered when I went to invest there. So therefore, the market is defined by the vacation rental activities, well, not just vacation rentals, but the vacation activity, which also defines vacation rentals in Hood River, Oregon, because they like windsurfing. So therefore, that's why you go onto the travel websites about those cities. You can get good exposure as to what is the industry that's active and engaged in that city. And by the way, City-Data also has the industries as well. All right, so that is what is my short list of websites that I use to be able to get information about a city before I ever choose it. This is Christina Suter, ChristinaSuter.com. Don't forget to check me out on YouTube, Roku TV, iHeartRadio, iTunes podcast, of course. And don't forget, I have 2 meetings a month. There's lots of free information for you on FIBI Pasadena. There are videos there from over 3 years worth of real estate meetings. Go to YouTube. There's tons of my podcasts there, as well as my interview with other real estate professionals. If you're new to real estate, please take the time to educate yourself deeply. And I've tried to give you multiple free resources to do that with. This is Christina Suter.